Reddit by Reddit recap. What is one lie your parents told you as a child that completely screwed you up? My mom told me that there was a sharp bone in my nose that would cut my finger off if I tried to pick it. It's scariest shit ever as a kid. I knew a girl who was missing half of her index finger. So she told me this story of being in a car and some little kid was staring at her from the car he was in. So she picks her nose, pulls the finger out and then mimes freaking out about it being half gone. The kid lost his shit and she drove away. And that's why you always leave a note. Didn't screw me up. But it's funny. Here I am, a 4-year-old Belgian kid on a trip through the USA with his parents. We're waiting in line to order something that I don't even remember. Waiting in front of us is a goddamn cowboy. He's wearing cowboy boots, a cowboy hat, and he has a ducking gun sticking out of his pants. In my 4-year-old mind, it was a cowboy. No doubt. This was cowboy country. After all, I ask my parents, is that a real cowboy? They tell me, of course he is. Silly. Anyways, we're discussing what we're going to order. I want Coke but my mom wants me to have milk instead. I almost throw a shit fit. Milk? Please. I want Coke. My dad looks at me and he says, you see the cowboy? Who is? I shit you not. Just ordered milk and downs it right at the counter. He drinks milk. Cowboys drink a lot of milk. To me, that guy was the epitome of badass. Suddenly, milk was badass. A lot of milk was consumed after that. What I learned. America is full of cowboys who walk around with guns in their pants. Cowboys ducking love milk. Milk is ducking badass. I ducking love milk. It's now 17 years later. Almost 9 AM and I haven't slept yet and there's empty milk glasses on my desk. Milk. This is why companies spend billions on advertising. We used to take long road trips throughout the Rockies. And whenever we passed a landslide falling rock sign, my parents told us kids that if we were too loud we would start a landslide and kill us all. Result. Hours of silence in a car with 3 kids. Scarring. Minimal. My mom did a more light-hearted version of this. She told me a story about how the watch for rocks sign was a warning to be on the lookout for an Indian brave named Rocks. I would be really quiet and look out the window trying to find him. She would make up stories about him hunting buffalo and such. Though I'm not sure she ever explained why he was a wanted man. In Canada our signs would read, watch for falling rocks. My father excitedly informed my brother and I that the Ministry of the Environment would give a watch as a reward to anyone that spotted a fallen rock on the road. Needless to say, our 8 and 6-year-old eyes were affixed to the horizon waiting for a chance at a free watch for the next few years whenever we took a trip up north. Eventually I realized there's no way to verify this scheme and we could take any old rock and claim it was found on the road. My father came clean. Logic. Troll dad. My mom was very vague about the way girls work down there. So until someone was kind enough to explain it to me in 8th grade instead of laughing at me, I believed that girls just had nothing in the front and everything, peeing, pooping, childbirth, was done out the back. I thought babies came out from the butt for a long time too. And even when I saw a vag on the front of a porno DVD, before I ever started fapping, I still wondered what they had. I never had the benefit of seeing a porno before all of that was explained to me. The first time I saw porn was in 8th grade when someone told me what a vagina was and I went home and Google image searched vaginas. When I was like 4, I had a pretty rational view on stuffed animals. They were cute and that was about it. Well, my stepdad had this long talk with me, utterly convincing me that the whole premise of Toy Story applied to my toys as well. They come alive when I'm not looking. etc. Because of this, I got batshit insane about taking care of them. Every time I dropped one I had to bandage it up and put it on bed rest. I used to get really angry yelling, I know what you are, why won't you just talk to me? This went on until I was about 8 or 9. Side note. I was also told by my stepdad that if I didn't eat the food he packed in my lunch, assassins that he had hired would tell him and ultimately kill me. That was about age 6-10. That side note is really messed up. Dude. That wasn't a joke. You need to be on the lookout for the lunchbox assassins. My father convinced me that the vowels were A-E-I-O-U and sometimes M. Really screwed me up in kindergarten. Bonus. I explained to my father what a troll was this past Thanksgiving. He was quite pleased that there's a whole group of people like him hanging out on the internet. Not so much a lie as it was maybe too much information to be sharing as a first grader. But my dad taught me about negative numbers when I was a kid. And I thought they were the coolest thing ever. Holy crap, because if you can go below 0 then you're just a superhero. I got in an argument with my teacher about it when we were learning subtraction in math class. Huh? Now, if you have 3 apples, you can't take away 5 apples. Remember, kids, you can't take 5 away from 3. Me. Hand shoots up a Hasayaukan. Huh? Common no. You can't patiently tries to explain again. Me. Interrupting no. They're called negative numbers. And you can too take bigger numbers out of smaller ones. That's why they have the little minus. Because you have to take numbers away to get them. And then I got my conduct dropped for talking back to the teacher. My dad couldn't even be upset about it. Probably not what you're looking for, but my mom always used to tell me that my dad was abusive and a cheater and a drunk and blah blah blah. Anyway, in my teenage years I still believed this, and when I had to go to my dad's for the weekend I would often run away and get picked up by the cops and brought to my mom's. It wasn't until I turned 19 that I realized my mom was manipulative and selfish, which is how she won custody of me in court. She had me lie to the lawyers and everything. It ducked me up bad. But I think it ducked up my dad even more. I moved in with my dad a few years ago for while I go to university. And he said every cent he paid in child support was worth it to have me here with him now. I don't know how it all turned out like it did. But I'm finally happy with where I am. My mom did the same to me. And eventually I took on her stories as my own memories. It wasn't until after my father died that I remembered that he was actually a pretty great dad. I think she was jealous of his love for his kids. My stepson's mother does this sometimes. One weekend when my stepson was staying with us, she called her son, who, while on the phone, turned around and told his dad that he was mean. She continued to prompt the 8-year-old boy to tell his dad that he didn't love him and such, to the point where the boy was crying. I pulled the plug on the phone. Apparently she was pissed off that my partner didn't want to sign the form to have his son's name legally changed to her surname. She continued to behave like this for some time as we tried to go through the paperwork to get full custody. Then she found a new man and stopped with all the BS. My friend told his daughter when she was little that you had to eat the fortune in a fortune cookie to make it come true. She was truly embarrassed when she went out to eat with her friends when she was 16 and ate paper. When I was growing up, my mother told me if I was intimate with a guy, I would get pregnant. In her eyes, the more she scared me about sex, the less chance I would have it. Thinking back, this caused me to shoplift pregnancy tests because I kissed my boyfriend and our lower parts touched through underwear and pants. There was one instance where I had kissed someone while sitting on their lap, 9th grade, and I started bawling saying I was going to get pregnant. It messed me up because I would ask her about what I learned in sex ed and she told me that I was extremely fertile. She told me actions that would not normally get a girl pregnant would get me pregnant. Messed me up for a long time. I always wonder how many girls have to deal with residual guilt whenever they have sexual feelings because they are told all their lives that sex is the worst possible thing they could do. Seriously. I understand. My parents demonized sex, so as the oldest and female they were very strict. I vividly remember going on a run with my stepmother and younger siblings when I was about 8. And she was talking about tongue piercings being disgusting because they were used for oral sex. I, being 8, didn't understand oral sex and thought one person got a piercing and the other partner gauged a hole in their tongue and simulated sex with their tongues. I didn't figure it out for about 5 years. Scumbag mom. When I asked for a Super Nintendo, she told me I should wait because the Super Duper Nintendo was coming out. Not quite a lie, but definitely scarring. On Halloween, When I was about 4 years old, I went out trick-or-treating with my parents early in the evening, and then when we got home they let me help give out candy. After a while I was sitting by myself, giving candy to whoever came by while my parents were in the other room. So I thought. Turns out my dad has snuck out the back of the house and put on a werewolf mask. He then came to door like any other trick-or-treater, but immediately grabbed me and started running down the street with me. I think he was more surprised out of the two of us. He was expecting some kind of reaction and I simply froze up and went completely silent for a long time afterward. Bro. Looking back on this, it seems pretty bad. You're not shrieking like a banshee? What the hell is wrong with you? Says the grown man in a werewolf mask who just prank abducted his kid. Dad told me that soda fountains are real fountains of soda found in nature, like a geyser or a spring in a hillside. Although restaurant employees had to go outside and fill buckets with soda from nature's soda fountains to refill the drink machines. Didn't screw me up, but I figure someone will have a laugh. I remember asking my mom why she doesn't have a PP and she just replied in a militaristic voice, "Lost it in the war." Your mom is awesome. I just lost my shit. Not a deliberate lie, but both my parents were smokers. My dad still is. My mom quit a few years ago, and as a kid I interpreted that to mean that all adults smoked and had to start smoking eventually. I knew it was bad for you, but I thought it was required for some reason. I actually couldn't comprehend my health teacher when she said she didn't smoke, thinking she meant that she just didn't do it that often. As part of that unit in health class we wrote promises to ourselves about abstaining from smoking. This was maybe 3rd grade, and I wrote I will not smoke until I am 56, hoping to put it off for as long as possible. I don't think there was a specific epiphany or realization that that wasn't true, but thankfully I figured it out eventually. I laughed at how you arbitrarily chose the age 56 to put it off for as long as possible. When you're 9 years old, 56 is the crypt keeper. Best comment of the day. Being high functioning autistic, I was an unnaturally obedient child, so my parents didn't really need to lie to me. Besides, when I was like 5 and asked how I can never have kids, I was terrified of getting pregnant because I remember my mom being miserable when she had my 2 younger siblings, and she told me to pray to God about it. They had to talk with me a few years later, but were so vague and awkward about it that I still didn't know what sex was until closer to 11 to 12, when I was bored and started reading a biology book we got from the library. The only time I recall an actual lie was when I was like 6-ish and asked where wind comes from. My dad said trees sneezing, but even toddler me thought that's bullshit and tried to get the real answer out of him.